And if I want to speak to you,
Yeah.
I'm happy to make an appointment.
Sure, I want to ask you about ball and chain. What's wrong with your ball and chain? Why do you harass
You should
people?
go.
These are all homeless people.
This is Alexander News Show with Alexander Carlos. We go after the news.
Tell me what's up with this whole climate change thing. What is your opinion on the climate change?
What? Hi everyone, this is Alexander Carlos with the Alexander News Show with iHeart Podcast Network, and this show and this interview is also going to be on Spotify and all other podcast networks, and this is going to also be on YouTube. Okay, Alexander News Show YouTube channel and all the other social media platforms, which will be below this video, and this will be all obviously posted later on in the podcast. To my left and on the screen, I think it's going to be to your right, we have currently the mayor of the town of Miami-Dade, and perhaps the next, and I'm going to tell you right now, I endorse this gentleman right here, as of right now. I endorsed him a long time ago. Future Miami-Dade County Mayor, candidate for Miami-Dade County Mayor, Manny Cid. How you doing, sir?
Good, man.
Welcome and thank you for appearing on the Alexander News Show. So let's get straight to the questions that are going to affect Miami-Dade County, that are affecting Miami-Dade County right now, and what's going to happen in the future. What's the first thing you're going to do if you're elected and you win the mayorship of Miami-Dade County? What's the first thing you're going to do when you take office?
Look, we have to lower taxes. I mean, this is an election that will decide if the middle class can continue to thrive here or not. We see an administration whose policies are harming that middle class, those working families, those small businesses. And if they continue down their path, they're going to try to create a binary society where there's no middle class. It's either you're extremely rich or you're poor and unfortunately dependent on safety net services. But that middle class, which makes a thriving society, is going to be dependent on this election. We've seen 134,000 people leave Miami-Dade County, particularly middle class people. So number one, we have to lower taxes. That's the main objective of my campaign, and it's not a promise. I already did it in Miami-Dade, and we'll take that same mentality to Miami-Dade County.
So why did the property taxes get raised? Does Daniella Cava have something to do with that?
100%. She's the strong mayor. She's the administrator of Miami-Dade County, and she's the one that proposed the tax raise. But on top of that, if you don't know how to be the administrator of the people's money, it creates long-term liabilities for taxpayers that increase the cost of government. And we've seen that throughout the last 3 years of Daniella Cava's tenure at the county level. The entire disastrous administration, that entire process has made life that much more difficult for working families and small businesses.
What are some of the things that Mayor Cava, and I'm not going to call her Madam Mayor, she doesn't deserve that title, Madam, I'm sorry. I'll prefer to actually call her Fidel Cava. What are some of the things that she's doing to mismanage the county money, tax money? What are some of the things that she's done to mismanage the money and put us in this real terrible situation?
Well, I think the better question is what has she done that's been beneficial to the middle class? Nothing. And you look at the county right now, and it's an entire disastrous administration. Every single regional service is under crisis, from the airport to transportation, animal services, water and sewer. I mean, garbage. The list goes on and on and on and on. And part of that is because there's no accountability. Our residents in 2005 voted to have a mayor accountable directly to them when they gave the county mayor those administrative powers that exist today. Yet we have a current administration that has zero accountability directly to the people. And that's what people want. Accountability, where if there's an issue, they know where to go. What exists today, nobody wants to be accountable. Nobody knows. Yet what they're good at is traveling on the international scale and going to galas all the time. there's a party going on, and the vast majority of us aren't invited to it.
And a good example of everything going up, the garbage fees are going up. They went up. What's your opinion on that?
Look, it's, again, mismanagement of funds. Years ago, the previous director of garbage proposed to do the waste energy plant next to the water treatment plant. And the energy from one would have paid for the electricity for the other to treat the water. Hence, we would have seen a lower cost across the board. These are common sense things. But what happens is when you have somebody who's not accountable to the people, who doesn't want to make decisions, the can gets kicked down the road. And particularly those middle class folks are the ones that get impacted by all these terrible decisions. If you're powerful and you're well connected, then Daniella living in Cava probably doing well for you. But if you're a regular, everyday citizen who owns a small business, who's working hard, who's pinching pennies, then she's been the worst mayor in this county's history.
I agree with that, and she's the most radical leftist in the history of the state of Florida as well. Also communist. And speaking of the garbage, what is your opinion of the incinerator? Her proposal of wanting to move it over to the Everglades, like the middle of the Everglades. Do you believe that's a good idea or a terrible idea?
Well, it shows a tremendous amount of hypocrisy. One of the reasons they never wanted to do the waste energy plant next to the water treatment plant is because it was too close to the Everglades. And now they want to build the incinerator in the middle of the Everglades. Look, hypocrisy needs to get called out. You can't be an environmentalist when it's convenient and then switch.
You took the words from my mouth. You took it from my mouth. Yeah. How much of an environmental disaster would that be if she was to, if she does win election, and I don't believe she will, you'll be the next mayor. If she does, for a miracle, win, and she goes through and she puts that incinerator in the middle of the Everglades, for what you heard or for what you know, how much of an environmental disaster could that be?
The reality is it's not going to happen. It's one of those things that they do to placate folks in the short term, but they know that long term it's not feasible. But it's kicking the can down the line. So in 10 years, not only will Daniella Cava not be the mayor of Miami-Dade County, all the county commissioners won't be there, and the vast majority of executive staff won't be there. But who's left holding the bag? While everybody is celebrating, having a good old time, cashing their pensions, every normal, everyday residents who don't have public pensions are left holding the bag when it comes to all these issues. And it's inherently unfair. And it's something we have to change. And we have to put power back into the middle class. When we have a growing, successful middle class, that's when society is at its best. So we got to make sure that happens once again in Miami-Dade County.
So continuing to speak about the taxes that went up, what is your opinion on this terrible deal for Miami-Dade County taxpayers of the recently approved, not only by her, she pushed this, and I'm not going to mention any commissioner's name, because all of them voted for this, except for 3 that weren't present. The FPL building, $182 million for a 50-year-old building. This terrible deal for Miami-Dade County mayors. Residents, Miami-Dade County residents. What's your opinion of the FPL building?
Look, it's hard to blame those folks because there's nobody right now at the county who's ever had to create their own jobs. Right? So I'm somebody who, if I make bad decisions at my restaurant, at my business, I go bankrupt. At County Hall, you can throw away money left to right and nothing happens. People keep getting paid, people getting their salaries increased, their pensions increasing, yet the people lose. There's nobody advocating on behalf of the people. When you get elected to public office, you don't get elected to be on the side of the unions, to be on the side of developers, to be on the side of... You get elected to represent the people's interests in every single negotiation. And look, when you sit down with a union, if you sit down with the FPL building folks, if you sit down with developers, every conversation has to be with the people's interests at hand. The moment that you lose focus of that, things like that happen. So that is a perfect example where you don't have enough people in public office. You have a lot of well-meaning people, but not enough people in public office who understand the administrative side and also don't understand how to negotiate on behalf of the people, which is one of the most important things. You have to fight for those folks who elect you. And a lot of people deposit their faith and their trust in you. You got to make sure that you deliver upon that.
So you would have never negotiated that deal. If you would have been mayor, that deal would have never happened at 182. Or it might have happened, but it was a lot cheaper.
No, it would have never happened. Look, the reality is we have to stop.
182 million.
Yeah, we have to stop expanding government. We have to start moving past this large government mentality here in Dade. The smaller the government, the larger the middle class. Look at all the large governments throughout our country, and you see communities where the middle class disappears, and you have major issues left over. Look at every large community throughout our country, and that's what you see. Miami-Dade County wasn't always like that. Miami-Dade County was a community where you can come in, pinch pennies, live in great, solid, safe communities, and not have to worry about the future. Today, that dream is disappearing, and that dream's already disappeared for 134,000 people who've already left our county.
And so, moving on to the next question, Miami-Dade Transit. That's a hot issue. A lot of people take transit. What are some of the terrible things that Mayor Cava did to Miami-Dade Transit?
Look,
Metro Rail and bus and everything.
I think our bus system is a perfect example how working families are never put at the forefront of these conversations. I was recently in Little Havana. I was meeting with a bunch of folks, and they were all talking about how the changes in the bus routes destroyed their lives. How people had to walk miles to get to the closest bus stop, and bus stops that don't even have covers. I mean, a lot of this is immoral, and it goes to show you that decisions get made without speaking to the actual consumers, to the folks utilizing these services, and the folks dependent on these services. Right? Public transit should revolve around those areas where people utilize them the most, and should not continue going down this path of eliminating bus routes in working class areas. Which again, it borders on the immoral side, right? When you do stuff like that, when you impact folks like that without speaking to them.
And there are people that are walking more distance, waiting longer times for the transit. What are some of the ideas? Let's talk about the Metro Rail extension. What are some of your ideas for Metro Rail extension? If you're in favor of it, against it, or are there alternatives right now?
Look,
because we're talking about the half penny tax that was from like 2000.
With regional services, but with UMSA, which is unincorporated Dade, it's the largest city in Miami-Dade County. It's 1 million people. The county doesn't do a better job there anyways. So I believe people would be better off, but it's up to them. I don't think it's up to me to start any process. It's ultimately up to the people. If they don't want it, they don't want it, and it shouldn't happen. We shouldn't force anything upon anybody.
So this is Alexander Carlos with the Alexander News Show. To my left here, and to the right of your screen, is the Manny Cid, Mr. Manny Cid, Mayor of Miami Lakes and candidate for Miami-Dade County Mayor. Este es el alcalde Manny Cid, el alcalde de Miami Lakes, Florida, y el candidato para alcalde de Miami-Dade County. Este es Alexander Carlos, Alexander News Show, and all the platforms of social media and podcasts. All that information is below the screen. Toda la información de Alexander News Show, todas las plataformas de podcast y social media abajo de la pantalla. Te voy a preguntar una cosa en español. Una pregunta, el aeropuerto es un desastre, porque yo hice un documental y tú puedes entrar y ver el documental de todos los escalators que están rotos, los elevadores que están rotos. Es un desastre. Yo hice este documental hace 4 meses, yo creo que tú lo viste. Si tú te pones y ganas y esa calle, perdón, mi español no es 100% bien, pero bueno, yo espero que tú entiendas. Y tú ya coges la posición que Cava ahorita tiene, que ha hecho un desastre con el aeropuerto. ¿Cuáles son una de las ideas tuyas que tú quieras implementar para arreglar el aeropuerto de Miami-Dade County? Porque eso es, el aeropuerto es lo que da dinero para, no sé si estoy incorrecto, para el condado.
No, mira, la realidad,
¿qué es lo que tú puedes hacer para arreglar el aeropuerto?
La realidad es que el aeropuerto es el motor.
Miami International Airport, sorry, en español, el aeropuerto de Miami Internacional.
El aeropuerto internacional de Miami. Es un problema bien grande y la parte más triste que no es un problema de dinero. El aeropuerto donde está saliendo dinero de tubería por todos los lugares. Pero es un problema de liderazgo, de contabilidad y de administración. la realidad es que ahí no hay sabiduría de cómo manejar nada. La gran mayoría de estas personas, empezando con la alcaldesa, que están en esta posición, si estuvieran haciendo decisiones que están haciendo hoy en el aeropuerto de Miami, estuvieran en bancarrota ya sus negocios en el sector privado, o ya estuvieran votados, pero desafortunadamente son posiciones políticas. En la política muchas veces no hay esa contabilidad, y mira el desastre que ha habido ahí, que es triste ver eso, porque otra vez el dinero está ahí para arreglar el aeropuerto y hacerlo mucho mejor. Es bochornoso a ver el aeropuerto en ese estado, y yo no veo cómo es posible, como las personas de este condado pueden dar 4 años más a un desastre así, que de verdad no tiene interés de administrar estos tipos de problemas.
And so, we're bilingual, by the way, talk show and platform. So we do both English and Spanish. That's why I asked you in Spanish. Nosotros somos bilingües. El programa mío, mi plataforma, todo el Alex Show es bilingüe, no solamente inglés. But we'll get back to the English. So, one question I wanted to know about, let's get to what you've done and what you can do for the county with the town of Miami Lakes. You implemented a special needs program in the town of Miami Lakes, which I learned a lot about it, but I want you to speak about it. Tell me what you did, what inspired you, what made you want to do a special needs program and designate the town of Miami Lakes an autism-friendly, special needs-friendly town, and what you can do, how that can work for Miami-Dade County. Please share.
Look,
for the special needs community.
When I was campaigning in 2016 to run for mayor of Miami Lakes, I met a lot of families who had adult children with special needs. And I started realizing the more and more that I knocked on doors that there's no services for those families. So I made a commitment to many of them that the moment I got elected, we would start the conversation and having an inclusive community for all the visitors. And that's what we have today. We had 4th of July a couple days ago, and Miami Lakes was one of the few, if not the only community that have a safe zone with earmuffs, with all the different stuff for kids who would have a direct impact listening to those fireworks. We had an inclusive safe zone for those kids, which for a lot of those families meant a lot, because now they can see the fireworks, their kids can enjoy it, everybody can enjoy it in an area where they felt comfortable. But we do that across the board, and I committed the last 7 years. I have a gala that I've done for 7 years straight. Every single dollar that comes in from that gala, we probably raise close to $250,000 for that. It goes to the committee and it gets reinvested in our community. We're the first city to do the partnership with the police department. The county looked at what we did, and now they're doing it. We were the first city to start doing summer camps for free for those families with special needs kids. We were the first one to start job training programs. We were the first, you name it. Everything we've done along the way, and we've created an ecosystem where now we have a lot of people, when they talk about special needs, only focus on autism, but now we have the Down syndrome community, which we're working with to create an MOU with our town so we can hire our first staffer with Down syndrome. Same thing here in my restaurant with our community that's blind. I was inspired by a young kid here in our community who's blind, and I promised him we were going to do Braille menus, and we were the first restaurant to do that, and he eats here. Now he can order on his own. Those things give human beings such immense dignity, and that's why for us in our community, especially a community like Miami Lakes, it is a moral obligation to help out those who need a little bit of extra help. So we've been very successful at that.
So my experience with Mayor Cava in 2020 when she got elected, I did reach out to her because you know what? It's not about Democrat, Republican. It's about community. And I reached out to her and directly through message, and she got back to me. To give her credit, she got back to me, and I asked her one of those messages, one of the first times I reached out to her, say, Mrs. Cava, I want to see what we can do to fix the special needs community. What can we do? So she put me with a lady named Ms. Holtzman. Ms. Holtzman is one of her staffers. She's the one in charge of disability services. Long story short, I messaged Ms. Holtzman one time, and she was supposed to get back to me. She did, And then we continued the conversation, and guess what? After I centered the conversation of some of the ideas that I had to improve special needs services for Miami-Dade County residents, special needs families, that's where it stopped. It stopped here. She didn't do anything. She didn't contact me back or anything. And it's one of the examples of that's why I'm endorsing you, because you did a lot to implement the special needs services for Miami Lakes. What will be some of the things that you can do for the county that you want to do?
We're gonna do the same thing. We're
needs.
gonna create a needs assessment of our entire county. We're gonna create a strategic plan for special needs. Have a special needs advisory board countywide, and start having deliverables, making sure that we achieve that. I'm gonna have a yearly gala as mayor of Miami-Dade County as well, where every dollar will go to our special needs community, and make sure that we have a county that's fully inclusive for all of them.
Cava hasn't done anything for special needs. As a matter of fact, she copied. Do you like to share something you did for the police department? I know you're contracted with Miami-Dade County.
Yeah,
But now Miami-Dade County has the thing countywide. Please explain.
So we realized a couple years back that we would get a 911 call, just say from a family who had an adult with special needs, and if our police responded with lights and sirens, and a lot of times it would escalate that situation. But creating a special needs registry with our police department, we created closer bonds with those special needs adults, and yeah, it's been really amazing. We create. So now if there's ever, God forbid, there's an issue, our folks respond, they already know who the person is, and a lot of times it de-escalates the situation instead of escalating it to a point where folks don't have to get arrested or create all these other secondary issues.
Great, and so it is great. The county, now it's a countywide issue, but they copied it from you, from Miami Lakes.
They did. But look, it's always important to have best practices. Miami Lakes has been the leader on many different initiatives, and I love sharing that with everybody. The best practices is so important.
So what are some of your major accomplishments as mayor of Miami Lakes that you like to share? Please, what are some of the things you did as when you being mayor for the entire time? Share.
I've been here for 12 years, right? So there's a lot of different initiatives we've achieved. But I always like to talk about three main ones: lowest tax rate in our city's history, lowest crime rate in our city's history, and the smallest bureaucracy in our town's history, where we deliver services a lot more effective and efficient than ever before. So I could talk about many other ones. Look, we're the largest public sector investment in infrastructure is happening under my watch. I'm leaving millions of dollars in projects for the next mayor, who just has to come in and cut ribbons and break ground. But additionally, the largest amount of private sector investment happened during my tenure as well. We've seen the revitalization of Main Street. We've seen the revitalization of our golf course. We're seeing, you name it, across the board, valuations have gone up because of all the different things that we do. So Miami Lakes is one of those communities that it's a jewel. It's a jewel of North.
You're very proud of it.
Yeah, I grew up here. I'm immensely proud. But it's one of those things. You serve your years. One of the things I loved about George Washington was, because I get people that call me all the time like, oh man, I wish you could stay as mayor. George Washington served his 8 years as president, and he went off to do something else, and he kept that tradition going.
And it was a team effort as well. You worked with an entire team, because you couldn't have done it by yourself.
100%. Look, and it's culturally, right? Things happen from the top, so I ride bike with police, I've gone on midnight shifts, I've gone with our guys who clean our drains, you name it. I've been there, done that. Hurricanes happen, I'm the first one on the street with our guys, so it's setting that example that you're not afraid to roll up your sleeves and do what's right. Look, one of the first things I'm going to do as mayor of the county is do right along with our garbage trucks. I'm not going to tell them I'm going to show up. I'm just going to show up one morning, jump into one of the trucks,
beautiful,
dress up, and go.
Cava would never do that. No. She will never do that. But a lot of the things that and I love what
the reality is, folks like us are getting squeezed out of Miami-Dade County. If somebody like me doesn't step up and challenge the status quo, then folks like us are going to be forced to move out of Dade County. affordability, transportation, failed services. And it's already happening. We're losing entire generations to North Florida, Central Florida, Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. Entire segments of our community are picking up and moving because they say they can't anymore. So if I didn't step up, and it was very evident, if I didn't step up, nobody else was. And I'm one of the few folks that has not only the experience, but the wherewithal to get in there from day one and change it. So I'm probably the most qualified county mayoral candidate in our community's history. There's been nobody with the breadth of knowledge nor the years of experience.
And you definitely have the qualifications. Being a business owner, I've been a mayor of Miami-Dade for 8 years. Am I correct? 8 years?
8 years on the council for 4 before that 12, and then 7 years in the state legislature before that.
Yeah. Who's better qualified? This gentleman right here. Nobody else. I mean, all respect. All respect to the other candidates, minus Cava, but this guy's respected. I mean, and I have love for the other candidates, but I mean, there can only be one. So who do you confide in? Like, one of my last questions, who do you confide in right now? Like, who is the person you talk to, that you talk to all the time? Would you like to share?
My wife. That's just the reality. You know, I'm as good as that team that you have at home. That's just the reality. That foundation of family. So no, my wife is my confidant. So
yeah,
by far.
And you have how many kids? 2 kids, right? 4 kids. Wow, family man, Cuban American experience. This is the next mayor of Miami-Dade County, Manny Cid, Mr. Manny Cid. This is Alexander Carlos, el próximo alcalde del Condado Miami-Dade, Manny Cid. What? Anything else you want to add? What? You have a promise for the people? ¿Tienes una promesa para la comunidad de Miami-Dade si es alcalde?
Look, the reality is the role that folks like you play is so important, right? Using that First Amendment to look into things, to ask questions. I think it's really important, right? We need more of that, people out there that question the ongoings of government. A lot of times folks shy away from it because they're like, oh my God, I'm going to be criticized. So I think it's important for you to share your story as well in terms of that First Amendment right, which is, tomorrow, you can pick up and start showcasing all these issues that happen in our community. It's important. That's how you keep people accountable, right? It's to have folks who actually question stuff.
Manny Cid, próximo alcalde de Miami-Dade County. Manny Cid, Mr. Manny Cid, next mayor of Miami-Dade County. Alexander Carlos, Alexander News Show. Mr. Cid, I appreciate you coming on the Alexander News Show.
Thank you, man.
Muchas gracias por estar en el programa de Alexander News Show. Please, ladies and gentlemen, all your information. By the way, real quick, where can the people go? And the information is going to be below the screen. Where can people go to find out more about you? Donate.
VoteMannyCid.com.
VoteMannyCid.com. And if people want to donate, they can go on that website. Si quieres una donación, puedes entrar a ese website. Yo voy a poner el website de Manny Cid. VoteMannyCid.com, right?
Yes, sir.
VoteMannyCid.com. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching the Alexander News Show. This will be posted on every platform in the podcast later on after the editing is done. Thank you for tuning in, watching. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.